link to the. Okay, now it's redirected. Okay, now it's redirected. Well then. This is amazing. Very good. This is amazing. I'm going to close out the 50 tabs that have just been opened, and we can get this show on the road. What an exciting moment. Well, guys, I'm so sorry for the delay there. We're just having a very entertaining experience of technology. Anyway, I'm led to believe that we're now streaming, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Helen Curl aboard, and we will be good to go. And just give me 1 second. And Helen is joining. Helen is here. Oh, fantastic. Hi. Are you receiving?
I am receiving. Are you receiving?
I am indeed. Well, I'm sorry about the delay there. It's a little embarrassing when these things happen. But I guess, Helen, we soldier on, don't we? And,
we do. We were having so much fun in the chat. There was jokes and yeah, it was great.
Okay.
We didn't miss anything.
Well, fantastic news. Yeah, just one of those things, too boring to go into, but these things happen. Well, first things first, Helen, here we are again. To paraphrase Whitesnake, it's just unbelievable to me that Heavy Metal Truants is now embarking on its 9th year, and it is upsetting to me that time goes this very quickly, because already it feels like yesterday that we were just beginning the planning process for all of this, and now it's just like, and here we are. And I don't know about you, but do you get butterflies? Because
oh my God, literally all day I've been sitting here going, oh, it's so exciting. But yeah, like it's so, because we've been planning for so long, even from last year, we kind of just carried on with the planning for this year. And I can't believe it's finally just around the corner. It's really exciting.
Indeed. Well, there's a lot to get through today, before our esteemed guests join us. And so I guess without further ado, we want to welcome everybody who's joined us today, and patiently stood by. Again, sorry for the delay. And I guess talk about a few housekeeping things as well. First things first, Helen, as ever, why do we do it? Why are we here?
Absolutely. So it's primarily for the kids. We've sporting 4 amazing charities, which we have done last year and for the last 9 years going. We've got Save the Children, who we also have the lovely Gareth Owen joining us today. We have Nordoff Robbins. We also have the lovely Abby Jones joining us today. And then the other 2, which we'll see next week and meet them properly, is Childline and Teenage Cancer Trust. So those 4 charities can really do with all of our help, especially in the last couple of years. I think everyone's really knows how hard charities have been finding it with their events not being able to happen. So that's why we do it. We do it so that those charities can keep helping the people that really need it the most.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess like a lot of people, I wasn't sure whether we would be able to come back last year, I think after Heavy Metal Truants, we all kind of felt like there's no going back to whatever normal is, in some sense, I mean, even were we able to a physical ride? I mean, the fact is we've just met too many great people along the way now, and we're properly global. And I guess that's the thing that excites me, is to have so many new and returning faces joining us from all over the world, which is super cool.
Absolutely. I'm just looking in the chat and they're all putting where they're from. We've got Canada, Cleveland, Chiswick, Amsterdam. Yeah, they're all here.
Yes, indeed. It's good. And I guess, we should probably, because we are broadcasting to Heavy Metal Truants themselves, go through, I think, a few numbers to give them an update on where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe talk about a few things that should be done before next week. And well, hit us with the numbers first, Helen. Where are we at in terms of fundraising and writers and all that jazz?
So on fundraising, which is obviously the most important thing, we have a current total raised, including gift aid, of £30,898.71. So already the challenge hasn't even started, and already people are donating just by the bucket load. So we're very, very grateful for everybody's support. And the only thing is, we've got the challenge starting next week, and we want to make this year the £1 million year, where the heavy metal truants have combined, all of the fundraising combined will have totaled £1 million. And to do that, we need to make, I've got to get this right because I'm not very good with numbers. We need to get £111,500 to make sure that we hit that £1 million marker. So we're a long way off, but we're getting there.
Indeed.
And that is the most important thing.
Yes, indeed. I mean, if there's one thing that I've learned from this, because I can be a little shy, is that you're actually asking on behalf of the kids, which means you can be bold, you can be always respectful, but perhaps a little more forward than you're accustomed to, because you are doing it on behalf of people who really need it. It's the kids who benefit. It is the charities that need to keep going. And I guess that's the thing that we want to kind of emphasize today, because we have so many people doing so many different miles, but ultimately it's that you're making an effort that counts, right? It's the fundraising, though, that is going to move the needle on what these charities do. And I suppose it makes sense for us to maybe invite our first guest in, to talk about what he does in the world of Save the Children. So Gareth is joining us. It's always like a digital birthing process. I love it. There we go. How you doing, Gareth?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Gareth.
Hiya.
Welcome aboard. And well, first off, on behalf of all of the heavy metal truants, thank you so much for what you do. And also thank you for joining us today as well. And well, it is such a pleasure. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what it is that you spend your time doing. Where does the money go? And what have your experiences been? Because I'm truly fascinated.
Well, firstly, let me say thank you so much to you both and to the Heavy Metal Truants for the amazing support you're giving Save the Children. We really do appreciate it. So I have the best job in the world. I'm the humanitarian director of an amazing organization which has a more than 100-year-old history of humanitarian work around the world. I spend my time thinking about children in crisis in every manner of place. Right now, we're thinking about Gaza, we're thinking about India, we're thinking about Myanmar, we're thinking about Tigray in Ethiopia, and Save the Children's on the ground in all those places responding. And my job is to help our country teams around the world do whatever children need them to do. So whether that's emergency health work, nutrition, food, education, protection, we do all those things for children and have done for a very long time. So after 20 years at Save the Children, I'm a very lucky person to still be able to do that every day.
That's a really big deal. Like, there's a lot to do. I mean, all over, I think one of the reasons we brought Save the Children in is because of that international, the international work you do. And you've obviously been all over the world in your career. Tell us a bit about kind of what some standout moments where, you've been working on the ground.
Gosh, I mean, there have been so many. I mean, probably leading the response to the tsunami in the Indian Ocean, which perhaps not everyone's old enough to remember it, but most probably are. Being on the ground there in the midst of one of the biggest emergencies ever. I mean, there are so many moments like that. So it goes on and on. Haiti after the big earthquake, more recently in the Philippines in Haiyan. Never a year goes by really when we're not doing something. I was in Lebanon a couple of years ago. COVID's really affected things, obviously, in terms of travel for everybody, but which means our in-country teams, and we have 22,500 staff around the world to Save the Children. So our big footprint is really handy for emergency response, because it basically means when something happens, we're already there. But the thing I would say is, you asked me where the money goes. It goes directly on the ground to helping our programs, and that's what's so vital about your support. Every penny counts, and with a pound from the Heavy Metal Truants, we can turn that into a few pounds more by adding that to other sources of income we have. But it's the money that you put into our emergency work, into our humanitarian work, into our organisation in general, that allows us to be quick. It takes time to fundraise from governments and from the United Nations, from wherever else we get money, but our own resources that you help us to raise are the reason we can be fast. And in emergency work, speed is everything. You know, there's no time to be lost when children's lives are at stake, or when there's been a major disaster where people are injured, big displacements of people, refugee movements, all those things we get involved in. I get involved in that stuff every day. And it all depends on our ability to act quickly. And that's where support from amazing organizations like yours and just what you've achieved in a relatively short period of time. I mean, you've raised more than £4 million. I was looking at your website. I mean, it's amazing. You should know that every one of us who responds and every one of us who goes on the ground and supports our in-country stuff, we know how hard it is to raise that money. We know you sweated for that money, and we do not take that lightly. And we are very, very aware of that, because it's more than money. You know, it's about trust, and it's about, at its heart, humanitarian work is about solidarity with humanity. And that's all that really matters. And that's what you're saying when you say, we trust you, we support you, we want to be part of that solidarity. And we feel that, we feel the love. So thank you.
Wow.
I suppose it's us who's really thanking you, because the truth is, what you do inspires us. And, you know, perhaps a peripheral benefit is also, it's resulted in a sense of purpose for all of us, you know, but perhaps one of the reasons why we were so catalyzed last year was because it was immediately so apparent to us just how acutely the charities had felt the effects of COVID. So, I mean, to kind of, you know, put it in, you know, I guess the starkest terms possible. I mean, how hard has Save the Children been hit by this downturn in events, by everything? What are the consequences of this horrible pandemic been for you?
Yeah, I mean, immediate and extensive, as you rightly say. I mean, COVID has one of the things about COVID is it's been a global problem. That goes without saying, and so it reminds us that we're only as safe as the least safe place in the world. You know, Western countries, less developed countries, all have had the effect. But of course, where children are struggling beforehand, the effect of COVID just makes things worse. So if you're in a country where you don't have access to good healthcare, you know, and COVID comes along, it just makes your existing situation that much harder. For Save the Children, it has meant that we've not been able to do all the fundraising events that we'd like to do, and all the kind of FaceTime that we spend with people. That's had a big impact on how much money we've been able to raise. But you've kept us going, people like yourselves, you've just kept digging in. And that's what humanitarian work's always been about. You just have to keep going. So whatever the cards are that you're dealt, you just have to deal with them. So, you know, our teams on the ground have adapted quickly. We're able to provide a lot of advice. Still managed to get a team into Bangladesh, where there's a huge refugee population last year. A lot more paperwork involved in getting them out there. But we still built an emergency isolation centre for COVID in the middle of the most densely populated refugee camp in the world, on what used to be a fish pond, in a matter of a few weeks. So we still do it. It's made the challenge harder. It's made, you know, the need to adapt very fast. We do a lot of our stuff online. We have big platforms, digital platforms for reaching out to provide advice, and it's just kind of accelerating the need to sort of adapt. And humanitarians are all about adapting. I mean, I deal with, you know, the unknown. I deal with the events as they come through the door, and it's always about, you know, figuring out what you got to do in the moment. But it all comes from that kind of working together as teams. It all comes from knowing that there are supporters like you behind us. And that, if you say we inspire you, I mean, I can tell you now what you do, seeing people cycling, seeing people running, that is right into our hearts. That is inspiration for all our staff. And we thank you for it.
Well, it must be really, sorry to interrupt, Alex, it must be really difficult, because obviously you know, being on the ground in all of these awful situations that are happening across the world, it must feel like, you know, day after day these emergencies are just happening, and it kind of, I think everyone's had a little feeling of you know, it's all a bit much sometimes. Yeah. But what's great about kind of knowing that Save the Children are there every day, and also, you know, knowing that the heavy metal truants are still here as well. Like, we're all part of this together. We're all working together for the greater good, and that's exactly
exactly that. I mean, and it's about the power of human, you know, solidarity and emotion. You know, and you've nailed it. We're in it together. The thing that I always say to people is, you always have the option to choose hope. People say to me, when you're in these situations, and I've been in, I've lost count in a number of wars over the last 30 years, last 20 of which was Save the Children. But despair is just not an option. I mean, if you give in to despair, then all is lost, and you'll be amazed. I'm a kind of essentially a student of the human condition as I find it around the world. And what you invariably find wherever you go, even in the most difficult of circumstances, you find people who just refuse to give up. They will not give up hope. However life is hard for them, they just don't give up. And so we don't give up either, because if they won't give up, even though life is tough, then we have no right giving up either. And I think everybody's learned that through COVID. It's tough. It's a struggle. That struggle got harder in the last 2 years, but you got two choices. You got to keep, if you're going through hell, keep going is what we say. And if you give in to that despair, and if you can't summon that hope, everybody has a bad day, right? We're not all going to be on top of our game every day. So you look to your friends, you look to your teammates to pick you up and remind you that keep the flame alive and keep pushing forward. I intentionally choose hope because it's much more interesting than giving into despair.
Incredibly inspiring words. And, I have to say, that's exactly what we need to hear as we get ready to confront hills and early mornings and everything else. It's a potent reminder of why we do it. Gareth, what an absolute pleasure it is to have you on the program. Please keep on doing what you're doing. It'll keep us doing what we're doing, and it'll form a metal nexus. So we'll hope to see you again in happier times. But for now, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and good luck with it all. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Keep riding.
Well, Helen, I've got to say, that just hit me in the feels.
Yeah, I was going to say, who had like 20 minutes in for me crying? That sweepstake.
Yes, well, look, I don't think you'd be human if you heard that story and you didn't respond to it.
Yeah.
And, I guess that's why we've been brought together to do this thing, and why we've kept on going, 8-9 years in. And to me, I hear something like that and it steels me for what lays ahead. It sounds like the kind of thing you're supposed to say, but I'm going to be thinking about that when I'm out there next week, and whether when I don't want to get out of bed at so-and-so time or whatever else. That's the thing that really counts. And great stuff. And I think, as Shaki said in the chat, a great addition to the family of charities that we chat with. But up next, we're going to talk to a very different charity, one of the ones that we've worked with from the very beginnings. What can you tell us about our next guest?
So this is the original charity that the Truants started working with. It's Nordoff Robbins. They're a musical therapy charity, and they are just, there's something about the power of music. As we all know, we're here because we're metal fans, and we love a bit of rock and also Toto as well. But there's Nordoff Robbins work with children who have difficulties with language, or actually, do you know what? I'm not going to explain. It's much better to get Abby Jones, who's going to be much better at explaining what they do.
Indeed. Well, I think we'll bring her in now, and hear what's happening in her world. And hello, Abby. How are you doing? Are you receiving?
Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Oh, good.
Hi, Abby. I realised I got your name wrong. It's Abby Francis, not Abby Jones. When you just like.
No, absolutely fine. Yes, hello. Lovely to be talking to you today.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for sparing the time. So, I guess the reason why we do HMTV is because it really is just like it's an extension of what we would frequently do when we were a physical event and we were just here in the UK and all that, because it's so important for us before we begin whatever our journey may be. If we're walking, if we're running, we're cycling, to be reminded of why we are doing it. Not that we ever forget, but you can become so focused on the physical challenge ahead. At times you can remember what the purpose of the fundraising is and where it all goes. So for people old and new to have insurance, Abby, what can you tell us about your world? How is it that you spend your days?
Sure, I sure can. But let me just first of all say thank you guys so much, and all of your supporters as well. Thank you so much, because like you say, what you're doing is really difficult, and we're just so grateful to have your support, especially in times like these. So just first of all and foremost, thank you so much to everybody. But yeah, I'm a music therapist. I'm from Nordoff Robbins. Nordoff Robbins is a music therapy charity. It is the leading charity for music therapy in the UK. And through really the vision of Nordoff Robbins is that through the power of music, we we meet people exactly where they are in that moment. And we hope that human potential, just our potential, each and every person's potential, is recognised and heard and celebrated through music and music making with people. So that's music first is our attitude. So we do all of our work within the music, and we achieve goals with each and every one of the people that we work with. We're playing music, and hopefully it doesn't feel like work. Sometimes I'm sure it feels like work, but hopefully it feels like, fun most of the time, first and foremost. And we're working on confidence building, on communication goals, on interaction, all sorts of things, to help support and enrich the lives of these people that we're working with.
That's amazing. And so how many people do you work with, like, in a week? You've obviously got a wide breadth of people that you work with, from kids with autism and language barriers, to adults with dementia, trying to help them kind of, remember, and then cognitive memory and stuff. How many it's obviously quite range, but how many people do you work with, like, on a given week?
Well, in a week, I don't think I've added it up, actually. Me personally, it must be about 50 clients a week that I work with. There's lots of groups that happen. I'm lucky to run a choir at the moment, so there's quite a lot of reach that happens that way, as well as the individual and the smaller group sessions that happen, sometimes in partner organisations, and sometimes a lot of the time right here at the moment from home, online, doing online sessions. The figures that I can give you is the 2020 reach. Obviously, despite the pandemic, we were still able to reach over 5,500 people in the year of 2020. So to compare, 2019, it was 12,000 vulnerable people that we reached in 45,000 sessions. So we obviously can't quite compare with the pause and everything, figuring out how we safely resumed sessions after the pandemic. But yeah, we still managed to reach 5,500 people, just more than, in over 21,000 sessions that we did in 2020. So managing to reach some quite high numbers there, which is really nice to just know that the reach is there. We're managing to reach lots of people.
Well, I mean, that's a staggering number of people, and also what an incredible adaptation, to challenging circumstances as well. Because I suppose, so much about what you do, a few of us were privileged enough to visit one of your centres in London and see firsthand, but I think you can almost only describe it as magical, because, being taken through that story, and it's powerful stuff, getting through to people in that way and seeing the effect that music, can have. But so much of it feels like it needs to be face to face, in person and there. And so it feels like perhaps this has been a time of, innovation. Like, you just had to find a way, didn't you? Because absolutely. I suppose you don't want to stop the therapy. You don't want people to go backward, and so on. So what has that challenge been like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was probably up there with one of the most anxious in terms of delivering this online, and you worry about the technological issues, the delays. How is that being received by the person on the other end? Just pure basic sort of technological reasons of time delay and things like that happen. But yeah, as you say, you can't stop. There is no stopping. We know how our clients benefit from this work, so it's just absolutely was that drive to go, right, let's just try a few things out and see what happens. And actually what has emerged from that, I think, is something truly beneficial, almost sort of a hybrid kind of thing that's happening now between sessions that are now happening in person and partner organisations, as we call them, so hospices, care homes, schools, organisations that we partner with and we send therapists into for a day a week or 2 days a week, whatever that might be, and have in-person sessions with people that are now able to resume. There's also a lot of work going on still, therapists like myself playing along from home. There is online choirs happening and actually increasing hugely. Our choir used to be run at the London Centre, used to reach approximately 30 people each week. It was taken online in response to the pandemic, just as a way to get people involved from home and try and reach people out there at home. And I think the figures are over 800 people now that are signed up to that and sort of can reach that on a weekly basis. So I think there's some real benefits actually to taking the spread of the work that we're doing actually out into the online world a little bit, and taking location out of the picture, really. And as I say, I think the one big thing to really bear in mind here for me is that a lot of the people that we're working with, COVID actually obviously brought challenges for everybody, but for some people this level of sort of socialization, finding it difficult to get out, not maybe being able to attend school every day because of transport issues or issues with pain or a condition that person is struggling with, not everybody is able to just come out of their house and go and attend something every day, and that's something that is often taken for granted. But all of a sudden you've got these online services. I, for example, work in a school where the whole service is online. Most of the learners are now back in the classroom, and I'm able to do class group sessions, but also students are able to zoom in from their homes if they're not able to be back in school yet. And I think it's just a really important shift that we've done from completely all in person in response to the pandemic, of course, but actually just in general, just being completely inclusive to everybody wherever they are, being able to access the services. And I think it's been really, really important, that move.
And I think it shows also how many people actually, need your, need the therapy that Nordoff provide. I mean, going with 800 people joining the choir, it shows that need and that want for people to do it. And if people haven't been able to get out, or there haven't been therapies in their area, they haven't been able to get to one, now they can join online. That's really amazing. And I guess it's only through fundraising that you guys can take that technology to the next stage and do what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We unfortunately, due to the pandemic, in 2020 we lost 40% of our overall funding for the year. So yeah, it's through things, people like yourselves that are doing this fundraising that has just allowed us to keep going. So yeah, it's we really, really do value the support. Thank you.
Well, don't thank us. And I think I speak on behalf of all the HMTs when I say there's a lot more where that came from. We have 12 days ahead of us to go and make it count, but Abby, we're going to think about the work that you do when we are out there. And just if you think I've given up, if you think the hill's too big, or if you think the distance is too long, everybody, I'm speaking for everyone here, we're going to push that much harder because you are why we do it. So thank you for that. Thank you for the difference you make.
I've just got one more question for you, Abby. I'm so sorry. I'm just taking Alex's show clock and throwing it out the window. One question I really wanted to ask. Obviously, we've seen a lot of videos and stuff from on the Nordoff website, and we've shared a lot with our socials about about individual stories that have really kind of made an impact on somebody. But have you got probably, obviously you don't want to talk about present clients, but was there a moment that you kind of just went, yes, breakthrough?
Yeah, actually there's something that immediately springs to mind, so that's always a useful thing, isn't it? I remember very, very fondly, and it was a real turning point for me in terms of just absolute and total faith in what we do, I suppose is the only way to put it. I remember working with a young girl who had learning difficulties and global delay and would use her voice, but if you can imagine not having a full understanding of language and not having any spoken language yourself, and using your voice to try and express something to someone, and almost all the time you're met with confusion, not judgment of anybody at all, but these sounds aren't quite functional in a very verbal world that we live in, and it's really hard sometimes when you don't have language to be able to express yourself. And it is a moment I'll never forget when this young girl started using her voice and singing to the music, and she sang a specific sound, and I sung that sound back to her, and she absolutely sat bolt upright like, yeah, that was my sound, that's what I sung. And this music evolved from just this one sound, from repeating it, from call and response. She lit up the room with her smile, and it was a really brilliant moment, because it was like somebody has switched that light switch and gone, you've understood me, you've heard me, you know what I'm trying to say. It was this musical companionship that just grew and grew and grew, and this mutual understanding where we were in this moment together, this completely musical moment. There were no words needed, and we were completely interacting with each other, and it was special moment, that one. So I hope that shares a little bit of those moments with you.
Thank you so much for that, Abby. That was I think it's important for the guys that are doing this, for the entrants to really know what work you're doing, and it's phenomenal. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you guys so much, and good luck.
We will need it. We will need it, and we're gonna put our backs into it to make sure that this does make a difference. Thank you so much for your time and for what you do.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well-
I've got to get a handle on my emotions today. I'm all over the place.
Well, you wouldn't be human if you didn't feel that way, Helen. I mean, the truth is, anyone who visits any of these charities and sees the work that they do up front, will know it's incredibly hard to keep it together, just because it is so powerful what they do. And it does make you appreciate just how special not just the charities are, but the individual people who do it. I mean, must have so much strength. And I take a lot away from that. It's not insignificant, what we are doing, but climbing hills on a bike, that's what I'm going to do next week. What they do is just absolutely flattening. And so, I guess it's just one of those things. And up next, we're going to talk to, well, a duo. This is what you call a segue. We're going to talk to a duo of heavy metal truants. One returning, the other one brand new. Well, I'm just so pleased. I think we should just bring them in, shall we? Do they require an intro?
Yeah, I don't think they do.
I think well, let's just do it, shall we? This is very exciting.
We know that face.
Indeed. Here we are. Oh,
Hello.
Guys.
all right, how are you doing? Are
Good,
you
thank you.
receiving? Yeah. Well, I've got to say, Zan, welcome back. It is so nice to have you. You are 100% just, well, one of our favorite heavy metal truants from over the years. So thank you so much for joining. And we haven't done a proper intro. I wondered if you could, introduce our other esteemed guest.
Yeah, this is my mum, Mary. Although she will answer to mum to pretty much anyone I introduce her to, and she is joining. She is a heavy metal truant newbie.
Yeah, it's well, Mary,
Welcome, Mary.
indeed.
Thank you.
It is such a pleasure to have you here, and we loved the story so much of both of you joining. Just that we're just like, man, we've really got to share it with everybody because it's just it's so cool. So tell me about the conversation that must have been had at some point where you both decided to jump in together.
There wasn't one. She just said, "I've signed up."
Do you know, she's actually, I've got on my little kind of the back end of Race Nation, I can see everyone kind of signing up and stuff. Mary, you were actually the second person to sign up.
Was I?
You got straight in there.
I was trying to give myself motivation to get on my exercise bike behind me here.
Now, your exercise bike has a very special name, doesn't it?
He has, this is Reginald, everybody. I don't know why he's called Reginald. He just became Reginald one day when I was shifting him, I can't speak. He's very heavy.
Yeah.
I just called him Reginald and he's Reginald ever since.
Mum had her knee replaced at the latter half of last year, and this was her motivation for getting on the bike and giving herself a reason to get that knee working again.
That's awesome. We've got a couple of well, I say a couple. There's quite more than a couple. Obviously the truants, which is our kind of parent, if you will. There's a lot of elder riders that have had either hips or knees replaced. Some bionic people kind of going at it up those hills. So it's amazing that we can kind of stretch across generations. It's not just a 20-year-old thing. It's not a 70-year-old thing. Everyone can join in, and that's what's so great about this.
Well, I'd never have been able to ride on the roads. I wouldn't have been able to do that. So it meant that I could join in this year. I've been very envious of Zan doing it the last few years. So
I did try and get Alex to let me do it on a Segway once, and he said no.
Okay, that's not strictly true, but I mean, we just weren't at that stage of evolution for heavy metal truants yet. But this is the thing, though. I mean, heavy metal truants, it's not like a lot of things that are out there because we want to 100% just welcome everyone to our doors. That's why we have different levels of challenges. That's why we have all these things. And what I love about the virtual stage of what we've begun to do is that it means that everybody can join in. Not everyone has to turn up to a specific place or whatever else. But I wondered if we could just flip to Zan. I mean, because you've returned now, but walk us through the emotions for some of the people that might be joining HMT for the very first time. What was your heavy metal truants experience like for the first time? And then what was the feeling once you had completed it? Because you really underwent a bit of an adventure.
The first time, so I did Heavy Metal Truants 5, and actually rode to Donington with the other lounge kittens. Jen is joining us again for riding this year. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't ridden at that point. I hadn't ridden a bike for about 20 years, and jumped on a bike, got myself a bike, started training, freaked myself out quite a few times. And then, but then once you get onto the ride, you know, the camaraderie of the other riders, and it just really picks you up. There's such a difference between doing the miles yourself and doing them, you know, in a group with a lot of other like-minded people. Although I probably wasn't quite so happy about it at the end of day 2, which is very hilly and very long. And then obviously came back to do it last year virtually in the pandemic.
Well, I mean, that was obviously quite a journey for a lot of us, you know, and, you know, I think we've learned a lot of things as well. And one of them is to stay in touch and to keep each other updated on everything that we are doing. So, Mary, I mean, I've got to, I think, ask on behalf of a lot of the Heavy Metal Truants who are watching tonight, you're going to have to keep us posted on your progress and how it's going with Reginald, because, you know, I think that, you know, I love highlighting the stories of individuals, and now that we're virtual, everyone is doing it in so many different ways. It's really fantastic. But I mean, tell us a little bit about Zan. Was she a good kid growing up? I'm sorry, I've got to embarrass you. I'm really sorry. You know, this is just how it works. Okay?
Most of the time. We were reminiscing only the other day about the day that she actually had me phoning hospitals and the police and everybody because I couldn't find her anywhere. Days before mobile phones, you see.
Indeed.
It only happened once, and I was perfectly safe at a friend's house waiting for a lift home, and she was so cross with me when I got back. I never did it again. She always knew exactly where I was.
Well, you know, I'm sorry, but it's just an obligatory tradition, you know, to do it when, you know, parents and children are together. I mean, are you going to be doing the same sorts of miles then? I mean, what are the challenges that you're undertaking?
Oh, I'm only going for the Donington. 175 miles is going to be a big challenge for me.
It's still, yeah, it's I did it last year and it was tough, really tough, because I did it on my little inside bike as well. Yeah, nightmare.
Yeah, there's no only about the Donington ride. That's a challenge in itself.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that you know, having these guests on today has reminded us that, you know, it's the effort that you put in, not the miles, that makes the difference. And that applies to the fundraising and all the other things, because that's what's really going to make the difference. So yeah, there is no only. And I've got to say, Mary, I'm feeling so inspired by your joining, and I'm going to be thinking about you on Reginald, and wondering how you're doing. And you're going to have to absolutely 100% keep us posted on what
I'll do that. But Zan is going much further.
What are you doing, Zan?
I'm attempting the bomber again, but I'm actually away at the end of the challenge this year, so I'm doing it in 10 days. But I'm really nervous this year. I am not nearly as trained, and obviously we've all been through quite a lot over the last year. And Alex, we were talking the other day about how psychological doing the miles is. Yeah. And it's not just about, you know, the muscles and the tired muscles and the sore bottoms. It's so much in your mind doing all those miles on your own mostly. So I'm pretty nervous this year, but I think I'm just not putting loads of pressure on myself. Just going to try and do as much as I can and raise as much money as I can and talk as loudly as I can about Heavy Metal Truants and all the charities.
So one thing I found when I first did Truants ride in Mexico, it was really long straight roads, and it was pretty dull. There was nothing really to look at around around me, and it was just very much, it's just like never ending. And I found it psychologically incredibly difficult, because obviously all the others were, you know, way off in the distance. And I totally agree with you, Zan. It's one of those things where when you're on the bike on your own, or even you know, sitting on your bike inside, it's just that constant kind of drooling. It can really get you. It's not just the physical hardship of it. I found listening to music, obviously, you know, really makes a difference. And obviously you've got to do it safely. If you're outside, you know, don't have earbuds in and stuff, because safety first. But you know, if you've got a little kind of boom box on your bike, just kind of, you know, rack those miles through and kind of hit the beat with your legs. I found that kind of really can help push you forward. And obviously we've got lots of join ups as well. You know, find people that are in your areas, even if you're in you know, in Holland, or if you're in Spain, reach out on the Facebook pages and Twitter and on our socials. Find somebody else that's doing it in your area and join up and go on a ride together. That's kind of what it's about. You can help each other through.
It's so nice being able to be connected with all the people around the world over the last 2 challenges, and seeing, I really love all the Facebook updates from everybody and seeing what everybody's up to and how horrible the weather is somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel quite jealous watching all the places people have been, because obviously I don't go very far.
Well, you can still you know, show us pictures of your living room and what you're looking at. Even, I don't know if you have like a fishing line with like a, you know, something dangling on the end of it, so you can pretend you're going towards it.
I have just moved Reginald, so he's opposite the television. I cannot tell a
There you
lie.
There you go. That's all you need.
That's a fantastic method. But I mean, this is the thing though, you know, anyone who's been on the physical ride knows that you can run out of gas. But then you find people who are going at your pace, and you share, you know, you have conversations and all those sorts of things. So I'd encourage everyone who is on Facebook, at least, to join the Heavy Metal Endurance Pit, you know, if you haven't already, and share your stories there, and connect with other people as much as you can, because they're probably going through something very similar to what you are. And I think that's what's going to make the biggest difference for all of us. We're in a different place from where we were last year. You know, we've all been through something that's, you know, exhausting, you know, just, you know, horrific in so many ways. You know, I think that, you know, it's normal to kind of feel like perhaps, you know, this is a lot to undertake, you know, but then you get going. It's like wheeling a bike, you know, you build momentum, and then before you know it, the end is in sight. And, you know, it blows my mind that in a couple of short weeks, we'll be having the same conversation, only it'll all be behind us, which absolutely blows my mind. And I'm telling you now, I cannot wait to hear everybody's stories. So, well, I got to say, Zan and Mary, thank you for joining Heavy Metal Endurance, and also thank you for joining us today as well.
That was my dog.
Exactly.
You're welcome, said the dog.
Yeah. The dog's very happy about that.
Brilliant. Well, best of luck in your journey. Remember, safety first. You know, have fun, and let us know what's going on. Okay, let us know how you're getting on, and we'll regroup with you very soon.
Good luck with it all, guys.
Thank you,
and you.
Very good. Well then, gosh, well that was a very
I love that we've got a mother-daughter team.
I love that we have and I don't know about you, but I'm going to be naming my bike immediately. You know, just thinking about that. I think Reginald is probably the best name for a bike I've ever heard.
Really is.
But yeah, what a great pair. And I've got to say, this is what Heavy Metal Endurance is all about. You know, I mean, we welcome everybody, and isn't it just so lovely that they've come aboard? I think, yeah, we'll have to be checking in on them and see what's going on.
100%.
Yeah, it's an inspirational story. Now, we should probably get on with some housekeeping.
Again, yes.
People who are watching on Monday, they need to ensure that they are doing what with their Race Nation pages?
So first of all, they need to make sure that they're registered for Strava. So that's really important, that you're using a Strava account to record your distances, whether it be automatically, you know, kind of strapped to a bike or you know, strap to your leg, or however Strava works. But you can also upload it manually as well if you're on a bike, on an elliptical, or if you're walking, you can also add in your distances manually to Strava. And then once you've got your Strava account set up and you've got all the distances logging in, you then need to push it through to the Race Nation app, so that it logs on the event. And that's really easy. There's a toolkit on the website that shows you exactly how to do it. There's links, there's instructions. We've literally made it all very clear for you. So you just basically have to make sure that your Strava details are going up into the Race Nation app, and that way we can collect a leaderboard and see how you're doing with your miles, but not only miles, but your fundraising as well. So you can see how somebody is doing similar mileage to you. If someone's doing the same challenge, how they're doing in terms of mileage, and how they're doing also in fundraising. So you can have a little competition between yourselves with that.
Indeed. And any problems people are having, either post in the Heavy Metal Truants pit, email info@heavymetaltruants.com. And we will get back to you as soon as possible. This is a virtual ride. That means that, well, as today's program proves, technology is involved. And that does mean that things are not always completely straightforward, but we'll get there. We'll get underway. We are here to help. And I put this in the newsletter, but can I just remind everybody the 3 rules of Heavy Metal Truants, which are, Helen?
Safety first, and safety first.
Thank you very much. Well, Helen, we have so much to do over the weekend. I am going to be piling my energy bars to the ceiling. I am going to be strategically washing cycling shorts, laying everything out, and the best laid plans will probably go to hell by about Tuesday. But that's how it always is. It's a blur. It's going to be a time warp.
Should we also mention, Alex, what's happening next weekend, the bank holiday weekend?
Indeed. Well, I think so. By that, I suppose you mean in and around Richmond Park. If you happen to be in or around London, we are going to be cycling around there. So I'd say Richmond Gate around 9:30, something like that. But it's not an organized ride. It is merely, why don't you do it in the company of other people? Because at least for the moment, we're allowed to be up, and I'll be there myself. And it'll be lovely to see some faces. But either way, everybody is doing this together over the next 12 days. So post your pictures, tag our socials, hashtag Heavy Metal Truants. Let us know what you are doing. We'll be keeping an eye on you all, and we'll be retweeting and signal boosting what you do, because it's all about the charities. And we'll be back here next Friday at 5.
Absolutely, we will. I'm not going anywhere.
5 p.m. BST. Join us. We'll have more fabulous guests, more inspirational stories, and probably a lot to talk about after the first week of Heavy Metal Truants 9 is down. And we'll be a lot closer to the big 7-figure number. Wow. Talk about drama. I'm going to tell you, I thought we might get it by year 10. We might get it by year 9. No, we have to make it by year 9, and then we're going to keep going. Okay, it isn't a maybe. We're doing this thing. We're going to smash it, and then we're going to set our sights on 2 million, and that's the way Heavy Metal Truants works. So until then, Helen, we'll see you at 5 p.m. next week. Probably WhatsApp you 20 things in about 5 minutes anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Things going on.
Yeah.
And well, guys, we'll see you on the road, so to speak. Safe journey. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Rest those legs, and we'll be in touch very soon. Okay. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.